Welcome to the Cardboard Crash Course. My name's Ethan. Let's learn how to play Hellapagos, a cooperative game until the food is gone.
Start by placing the game board in the center of the table, and place the raft cards and status condition cards next to the board. Then we'll take all the weather deck and remove the hurricane card from it, along with 5 other random cards from the deck. We'll shuffle those together, place them face down, and then shuffle the rest together and place them on top of it. This prevents people from hitting the hurricane until at least round 6. Then we'll place all 6 wooden balls into the bag and keep that nearby. Then we'll place the food and water markers on the track according to the number of players. Here we're setting up for 6 people. Then we'll place the wood disc on 0 of the raft track. We'll then deal 4 wreckage cards to each player face down, and place the rest of the wreckage cards face down into the card holder. Finally, give the player who most resembles Tom Hanks the first player card. The first player will start the game. At the beginning of each round, except for the very first one, the first player will pass the first player card off to the right. After that, the first player will reveal the new precipitation card. This is the new card for the round, and can show either 0 to 3 droplets of water. You'll place that near the game board, above any previous precipitation cards. You can use any of the cards in your hand exactly how they explain they could be used. For example, I cannot use a bullet to kill another player until I also have a gun. You also get exactly 1 action for your turn. You can either collect rainwater, go fishing, collect wood for the raft, or search the wreckage. Let's look at those 4 possible actions right now. The first possible action is to collect rainwater. To do this, we'll look at the amount of precipitation for the round and move the water marker up that many spaces. Pretty simple. The next possible action is catching fish. To do this, we'll simply reach into the bag to grab 1 random ball from it and look at how many fish are on that ball, either 1 to 3. There's only 1 fish here, so we'll only move the fish token up 1. The third action, collecting wood to build the raft, starts out simple by moving the wood disc once along the raft track. Then you'll decide if you want to go deeper into the forest, which comes with its own risks and rewards. Decide now how many balls you're going to collect from the bag, 1 to 5, and then grab that many. If all of the balls are light colored like this, you're going to move the raft track along that many spaces. However, if you ever draw a black ball from the bag, no matter how many balls you decided to draw, you are going to skip this whole rest of the action and instead become sick by taking one of these 6 status conditions and placing it near your play area. Anytime you are sick, you're going to skip your next action in the next round, and until then, you will not be able to vote, which we'll talk about in just a bit. If at any time, usually during this action, the wood disc ever makes it to the 6th spot of the raft track, place one of the raft cards onto this area. The amount of cards on this area shows how many players are going to be able to escape the island. So right now, only 1 player could survive. The final possible action is searching the wreckage, which is very simple. You'll take 1 of the cards from the wreckage deck and then add it to your hand. This could be very powerful, but many players could see it as very selfish. You may play your cards from your hand at any time unless they specify otherwise. Many cards simply just have an effect and are discarded. However, there are some cards that have a permanent use. This, after being played, stays in front of you. The rest of the cards can be freely traded around to other players. You can also make deals with other players, especially during your own turn. You can be conniving, you could be very kind, you could work together, or be completely selfish. It's up to you. After each player, however, goes around the table and takes 1 action on their turn, ending with the player to the right of the first player, we're going to now spread the rations. To spread the rations, we'll start with water, and move that icon down as many spaces as there are number of players. As long as we did not hit 0, we'll then move on to food, and do the same thing here. In the instance where we had enough food and water in order to give 1 to each player, we'll simply just move on to the next round, passing the first player token to the right and starting a new round with that player. However, let's say we went to go spread the rations and the water was at 4 when there's 6 players. We'll move it down as many places as we can, and then we'll have to vote out 2 people from the island, eliminating them from the game. I'll explain how to do that in a moment, but moving on to the food rations, we'll then only have to feed 4 players, and we'll move it down from 5 to 1. Because we had enough food after spreading water and voting people out, we'll continue on to the next round. Voting is pretty simple, and it's up to the first player to count down from 3. 3, 2, 1, and then everybody points simultaneously at a player they want to vote out. If one single player gets the most votes, that player is eliminated, and all of their cards are given equally to the players on their right and left. If multiple people are tied in votes, the first player decides who is eliminated. Make sure you have a good relationship if you're doing something under the table. In either case, we'll repeat this until as many players are voted out as need to be. You can also use cards, like the gun in the deck, in order to eliminate other players instead of having to actually vote on them. Just make sure you're okay with being public enemy number 1 in that instance. The game can end in one of 3 ways. The first way is leaving the island, where the amount of raft pieces equal the amount of remaining players at the end of a round. So if we had 3 people left and 3 raft pieces here, the 3 of them would win together. The second way is the arrival of the hurricane, with this hourglass symbol. No matter what happens during this round, players must leave the island at the end of it. If there's more surviving players than the number of raft pieces built already, you'll have to vote out people at the end of the round in order to see who can board the raft and leave. And the third and final depressing way the game can end is if every player dies all in the same round and there is a total failure where no one wins. Once you're totally comfortable with the game and have played a couple of times with the rest of the players, you can pass out a character card to each player at the beginning of each game. These character cards simply have, most of the time, a positive and a negative effect to make the game a little more interesting and fun. You can also add events into the game. These are cards that each round the first player, before pulling precipitation, will just follow the rules of the event. These add just interesting little things that can happen to the island or to the players living on it. And now you know how to play Hellapagos. Have you already played this, and what do you think about it if you have? If you want to see more from the channel, check out this playlist of how to play videos to see more from the Cardboard Crash Course.